Have a great weekend. Newsroom starts now. And good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Costello. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush taking turns on the very same stage this morning. As you can see, it's Clinton's turn now. She's reaching out to black voters by addressing the National Urban League in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Let's listen for a bit.
All of us looking into our hearts, examining our assumptions and fears, and asking ourselves, what more can I do in my life to counter hate and injustice? How can I make our country a better, fairer place? Let me be clear, I think all of us need to do that kind of introspection, but those of us who have not experienced systemic racial inequities, we have an extra obligation. We need to do a better job of listening when people talk about the seen and unseen barriers they face every day. We need to practice humility rather than assume that our experiences are everyone's experiences. And yes, we need to try as best we can to walk in one another's shoes, to imagine what it would be like to sit our son down and have the talk. Or if people followed us around stores or locked their car doors when we walked past. That empathy, that's what makes it possible for people from every background, every race, every religion to come together as one nation. That's the kind of generosity of spirit that makes a country like America endure. And given what we've seen and experienced over the last 2 years, this is an urgent call for people to search their own hearts and minds.
All right, we're going to step away from this speech by Hillary Clinton before the Urban League in Florida. And let's talk about what she had to say with Washington political correspondent Jeff Zeleny. Jason Johnson is also with me. He's a professor of political science at Hiram College. Jason, I'll start with you. What do you think?
I'm shocked. This brand new empathetic Hillary Clinton seems to have actually taken hold. I think the substance of what she's talking about, the importance of empathy and connecting that to policy, I think substantively it's good, but even personally, she really seems to be connecting with the audience. And she needs to, given how well Reince Priebus was received when he spoke at the Urban League earlier this week.
Well, it's interesting that Jeb Bush will soon appear on the same stage. I think there's a speaker in between the two. But, you know, there was this controversy over Black Lives Matter. You remember Hillary Clinton said, you know, Black lives do matter. But then the Republican side came out in the form of Jeb Bush, who said, you know, all lives matter. And why are we sticking to that? I just want to play you what Jeb Bush had to say about that, Jeff. Let's listen.
I mean, we're so uptight and so politically correct now. You apologize for saying lives matter. Life is precious. It's a gift from God. I frankly think that it's one of the most important values that we have. I know in the political context, it's a slogan, I guess, and should he have apologized? No.
So, Jeff, when Jeb Bush takes the stage, do you think he'll bring that up?
Well, Carol, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, the full context of that is, I mean, he says that, yes, Black Lives Matter, but also white lives matter and all lives matter. So we'll see if he mentions that this morning. But this has been something that has tripped up a lot of candidates. And Hillary Clinton in South Carolina just a couple weeks ago, she said, yes, Black lives do matter. But it was just a few weeks before that in St. Louis when she came under some criticism herself for saying all lives matter. And some people in the Black Lives Matter movement said that she was not being sensitive enough. So she has retooled a bit. And of course, the whole slogan of Black Lives Matter has taken on such an important meaning, an important feeling and just what's happening.
Let me interrupt you on that point because she just mentioned Black Lives Matter, so we're going to go back to Florida.
A growing number of Americans are realizing what many of you have been saying for a long time. We can't go on like this. We are better than this. Things must change. Now it's up to us to build on that momentum, and we all have to do our part. But those of us who strive to lead have a special responsibility. I'm very pleased that many presidential candidates will be here today to address you. It is a signal that the work you've been doing, laboring in the vineyards for decades, is getting the political attention it deserves. But the real test of a candidate's commitment is not whether we come to speak at your national conference, as important as that is. It's whether we're still around after the cameras are gone and the votes are counted. It's whether our positions live up to our rhetoric. And too often we see a mismatch between what some candidates say in venues like this and what they actually do when they're elected. I don't think you can credibly say that everyone has a right to rise and then say you're for phasing out Medicare or for repealing Obamacare. People can't rise if they can't afford health care. They can't rise if the minimum wage is too low to live on. They can't rise if their governor makes it harder for them to get a college education. And you cannot seriously talk about the right to rise and support laws that deny the right to vote. So yes, what people say matters, but what they do matters more.
All right, let's step away once again. Jeff, that was an obvious slam on Jeb Bush, right?
No question about it, Carol. Right to Rise is the name of his supportive group, his political action committee, and he talks often about the right to rise. So what Secretary Clinton is doing right now in front of this audience in Florida, where Jeb Bush will be appearing within the hour, is saying that this audience should pay attention to the policies behind these slogans and speeches and things. So it is a direct shot, or perhaps an indirect shot, because she didn't mention him by name, at the policies that Jeb Bush and other Republicans are putting forward. But Carol, the important political point is this. Hillary Clinton is trying to court black voters across the country. Of course, they overwhelmingly vote in high numbers toward Democrats, but her challenge is getting them to vote in as high of numbers as they did for President Obama. To build this coalition that sent him to the White House twice, she needs a very, very, very high percentage of the black vote. And it's an open question if some of the black vote is open to Republicans right now. So that is an interesting sort of subset of what's going on here today at this conference.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jason, what you think, how Jeb Bush will be received today when he takes that podium.
I mean, he's always going to be received politely, but as you can see, what Secretary Clinton is doing right now, she wants to end her speech on such a high note. She wants Jeb to be the guy who has to, like, follow a Bruce Springsteen drum solo. Like, she wants him to come on stage and not be able to top the job that she did. Jeb Bush has a huge mountain to climb with African-American voters. He's going to do well with Latino voters, but this is a group of people that he really has to demonstrate himself to, and so far, he hasn't done that good a job. And his comments about Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, it's not just a slogan, it is actually a political movement that a lot of people are involved in. He's got to be able to address that, or he's going to have some real trouble. That's going to matter for Republicans and Democrats next year.
Well, we'll see what happens when he takes the stage. Thanks to both of you, Jason Johnson, Jeff Zeleny. I appreciate it. I'll be right back.